Hi, kids. Okay. 1960, Psycho is next. 1960 was a fairly big year for horror. This came out, as well as two movies I mentioned in the Vincent Price videos and the Roger Corman videos, The Tingler and The Fall of the House of Usher. Village of the Damned also came out, and so did Eyes Without a Face. Billy Idol likes that one. Psycho was based on a novel by Robert Bloch. Robert Bloch was a horror writer of well regard. He started writing novels right out of high school, about 17. Even before that, he was writing short stories in correspondence with H.P. Lovecraft. So his earlier work was very Lovecraft influenced. Um, the studio had already had their readers read the novel and decided that they didn't want anything to do with it, but Hitchcock did. Um, he kind of like Kubrick would later do with The Shining, he just kind of took what he wanted from it, and yeah, he um, restructured it. The whole first act is misdirection to make you think it's a typical Hitchcock movie. A couple times throughout, we change the protagonist. Um, your sympathies change. He very much changes the character of Norman Bates. You'll see people say Norman Bates is based on Ed Gein. Even Robert Bloch will say not really. He was maybe slightly, partly an inspiration, but there's not a lot of similarities. Even less in Anthony Perkins' portrayal of Norman Bates. Um, Janet Leigh, of course, is the female lead. Is she? Um, movie was inspired a lot of the slasher genre. People say it's the first slasher. Maybe. There's a movie that came out the same year, started filming 2 months prior, released 2 months prior. It's a Michael Powell film. So Michael Powell was another British director, just like Hitchcock, of high regard. Only unlike Hitchcock, he didn't typically make suspense thrillers. He caught people off guard when Peeping Tom came out. Peeping Tom is about a man who films his female victims as he murders them. So that kind of sunk his career. Martin Scorsese is a big Michael Powell fan, a very big Michael Powell fan, and so is his editor, Thelma Shoemaker. She's probably a bigger Michael Powell fan because they're married. Um, so Peeping Tom maybe is the first slasher, but does it matter? Yeah, Halloween. The lead in, or one of the love interest in this is Sam Loomis. Sam Loomis, of course, is also the doctor in Halloween's name. And then in Scream, we get Billy Loomis. Marion Crane is played by Janet Leigh. Of course, Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis are the parents of Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. Anthony Perkins, in his own right, his wife was also an actress and a model, and her mother was a Italian aristocrat and quite high regarded fashion designer. The two of them have two sons. You may or may not have heard of. One is a folk musician, Elvis Perkins, and the other one is horror film director, Oz Perkins. Movie got in trouble a lot with the censors for a lot of reasons. One of them is this is the first film that features a flushing toilet. It's crazy. So he got in trouble for that. A lot of his other aspects of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. Maybe there's somebody who hasn't seen it. That was a big thing for the movie, right? So prior to 1960, when this is released, theaters would have start times for the first showing of a movie, and that was it. So you could show up at any time, get your ticket, go sit in the theater, and the film would play on a loop. So you'd have your feature, and then you'd have a supporting feature, which is usually like a B movie or a genre movie. And then there'd be a cartoon, there would be a short film, there would be trailers, and there would be a newsreel. And it would just play on loop. So you could show up and you could be in the last act of the movie and you could watch it through and then watch everything else and stay until you caught up to where you came in and then leave. But Hitchcock didn't want people to ruin the movie for themselves. He didn't want somebody to come in the second or third act and to ruin the surprise of what he's setting up, right? So no one was admitted after the show started, which theaters weren't too happy about until they saw the lineup of people, and then they didn't mind. It's the first movie to do this in America. French film Les Diaboliques in 1957 had the same tactic. So there's that, little corrections there. Of course, it's also famous for the shower scene. Bernard Herrmann's score, so he does the score for a bunch of Hitchcock movies. His score really emphasizes that. There's a documentary about the whole scene, 78-52, right? So it's 78 shots, 52 cuts. Scene got in trouble with censors because they thought they saw buttocks and boobs when they didn't. What else? Yeah, so that's, I think, about that for Psycho. Next movie I'm going to talk about is a movie that is very much in response to Psycho. Somebody watched this, thought Hitchcock was wimping out, and decided to make a movie that showed what he didn't. So next we'll go there, 1963. If you like blood, it's a movie for you. Okay, thanks guys. Like, subscribe. See you later.